I feel the need for speed.
Oh man, that's classic. Welcome to Flynn Dog Woodwork. So there's a lot of classic high fives in movies, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about 5 tools that I don't think you've seen before. So let's check out these 5 tools and see if they're right for you. So I couldn't be more excited to show you these 5 tools today. These things are game changers, and I'm super impressed with each one of these tools we're going to see. He must have Googled deep again. You got that right. These 5 tools are 5 tools that I've never seen before. So let's take a look at our first tool and see how it works. So as we all know, glue ups can be a really stressful time. We're trying to get all the panels aligned and the clamps put on them without anything shifting. Take this box for instance. We just finished gluing up this box and we used one of our last clamps. All we have left are these smaller clamps that won't fit the entire width of the box. Now if you're anything like me, I'm sure you've tried to jerry rig a couple of clamps together to extend the width. However, this can become ineffective as the clamps can often slip. Now I've done this double clamp method a number of times. However, there's nothing more frustrating than coming in the next day after a glue up and finding your clamps have slipped. This becomes even more of an issue if you're using things like bar clamps. As you know, the bar clamps have those plastic pads that easily slide on and off. They also don't have as much surface area on the clamp to give you the support you need. Plus, if you're using 2 clamps, you usually have to have 1 clamp vertical and 1 horizontal. This means that the horizontal clamp may be very difficult to clamp onto the side of your workpiece. So it's right about now that you're probably asking, well, did you find a solution for it, Brian? Well, I sure did. Let me show you what it is. Wait for it. It's the pony clamp from Jorgensen. Let's open this box and see what comes inside. So we've probably all heard of Jorgensen, and I only have one experience with Jorgensen, and that's actually with bar clamps. And I wasn't too impressed with their bar clamps. Let me show you why. So these are some Jorgensen pony bar clamps, and I've had these for a couple of years. However, I don't tend to use them, and the main reason for this is because they have a very small footprint. Because of the small footprint, they're very difficult to set on edge and make your glue ups perfect. So I was a little hesitant on purchasing any more Jorgensen pony clamps as I didn't want to run into any similar issues. But these Jorgensen pony clamps are a little bit different. These are the Jorgensen Easy Hold Quick Clamp. Dude, how many quick clamps are you going to show on this channel? Chill out, dude, these are different. Let's check out this quick clamp and let me show you how we can extend the width of our clamping pressure. So right off the bat, this set comes with 4 clamps. And as you can see, these are very similar to any other quick clamp. You simply pull the trigger to tighten it down, and you pull this little knob here to loosen it up. Like many high-end clamps, these clamps also have a button that you press to make these clamps into spreaders. With just a few adjustments, these things can be easily turned into spreaders. So these are all great features, right? But this isn't what makes this clamp unique. Let's take a look at the feature of this clamp that makes this truly unique. So if we look at the very end of this clamp, there's a couple of dovetails, and this is what makes this clamp stand out from most other quick clamps. Let me show you how it's used. So if we take these 2 clamps and we place them on their side, you can see how these dovetails come into play. By sliding the 2 dovetails together, you can essentially double the capacity of each one of these clamps. Now let's put them on our box and see how they work. So we're back in our box, and all we have left are these Jorgensen Easy Hold clamps, which are not quite long enough to fit the entire width of this box. However, with that locking mechanism, we can simply extend the width of those clamps and clamp them down so we can reach the entire width of the box. Now these Jorgensen expandable clamps are truly unique in my opinion, and I've never seen anything like them. Not only do they have the small clamp capacity, but you can attach them and make them as long as you want. Now for this video, I only purchased the 6-inch version. Now there is a 12-inch version, and that comes in a set of 2. However, the 6-inch version comes in a set of 4. So whatever size you decide to go with, you really can't beat the versatility of these expandable quick clamps. Now that we've taken a look at these quick clamps, let's start to take a look at our second item. Now the second item we're going to take a look at is a jig. Now this is a jig I have seen on YouTube, however it's not that predominant. And this is something that I really wanted to try out for myself. Plus it's by a reputable brand that I know you've heard of. It's made by Microjig. Let's go take a look at it. So I'm pretty sure this box was delivered to the wrong house, as this is called the Microjig Fit Finder, and there's nothing fit about me. Oh yeah, that's mine, just leave it in my room. Well, I guess I didn't know you were still living here. Let's get into this box and see how it works. So right off the bat, I'm super impressed with this tool already, as there was no assembly and there's only one piece in the entire box. Let me show you exactly how this works and a couple of features we can use this tool for. So one of the main features of this tool that caught my eye was the ability to create half-lap joints with virtually no setup whatsoever. Let's create a half-lap with this tool and I'll show you exactly how it works. So the way this tool works is you have a little lip here that rests on a piece of material that you want to create a half-lap with. Then this tool automatically creates a little ledge that allows you to easily calculate what half of that width is. So for this example, I'm going to be creating a half-lap joint with a 2x4. And you can see that the top lip is resting right on top of that 2x4. The second lip is resting halfway through that 2x4. And this is the reference surface that we're going to be using to set up our table saw blade. So now that I have the width of the material set, I can now raise my table blade until it hits the top of that ledge. Now that I have my height of my table saw blade at the exact half width of this 2x4, I can now make cuts on both of these 2x4s and create that half lap joint. So let's do that now. Now I could have made this a heck of a lot easier myself if I just would have switched out to a dado stack. However, I hate switching out my dado stack. So now that we've made the cut, let's go see how this half lap fits. Now you're going to have to remember that I'm working with 2x4s here, but if we put our half lap together, you can see that it's a perfect fit. And if I feel the top, it's completely smooth. So I'm really pleased with that half lap joint. But the table saw is not the only place where you can use this tool. You can use this at the router table as well. Let's say you want to put some dados in at half the width of your material. This thing can easily allow you to do that. Just like at the table saw, you place your jig into place and you raise your router bit. You can also use this jig to find the exact center of your board if you're trying to do layout. Another nice feature of this jig is it does have two magnets on the bottom that easily allow you to attach it to any metal. So all the hype about this jig is true. If you do a lot of half-lap joints or you want to get into doing a lot of half-lap joints, you really can't beat the ease of functionality using this tool to set up your blade at the perfect height. So that's 2 items down and only 3 left to go. Before we move on to our third item, I ask you to do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, leave a like and leave a comment. Also, for any of the tools that we take a look at today, I'm going to leave links in the description below so you can go check out those tools for yourself. Now let's move on to our third item. So picking out lumber at either a big box store or a sawmill can be really tricky. You want to make sure that that wood is completely dried out and is completely usable once you get it back to your shop. That's why I like plastic. Ugh, you would like plastic. So how do we tell if wood is completely dry and usable before we take it home? Let me show you what I have been doing. So if you saw my video on testing out the moisture content of wood available at Home Depot and Lowe's, you've probably seen this tool right here. And this is a moisture meter. And this tool is great for giving you a rough idea of how much moisture is in the wood that's sitting right in front of you. However, you need to know something about the moisture content of wood before you can even use this tool. And this is where I ran into problems with using this machine. I could never remember how much moisture was appropriate for certain types of wood. Was it 9%? Was it 12%? Well, it's humid, is 14% okay? It would be so much easier if I had a moisture meter that would tell me yes, no, maybe so, on whether or not wood was usable for my projects. And then I was approached by a company called Top Test. Let's take a look at this moisture meter and see why it's better than the others. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. You can see there's some detailed instructions along with the tool itself. There's also a set of batteries, a carrying case, and some extra prongs if you ever need to replace them. So this wood moisture meter really is a moisture meter for dummies. Just like with other moisture meters, it has a top that's removable and the 2 prongs that you stick into the wood to get the reading. So what makes this moisture meter different than all the rest? Well, a couple of things actually. Let's talk about the first thing. So the first thing that I like about this tool is the user manual. And this user manual will easily slide into the case that's provided with the tool. Now this user manual will come in real handy when we're trying to use some of the functionality of this moisture meter. Now in the back of the user manual is the calibration tables of wood. And this has almost every single species of wood out there. Next to each species of wood is a letter. And it's this letter that allows us to calibrate our moisture meter. So as I just said, it's that letter that's next to each species of wood that allows you to calibrate this moisture meter. So instead of having to remember what percentage of moisture a wood should be at in order to be usable, this thing will tell you yes, no, or maybe so on whether or not a piece of wood is usable. So let's go test it out. So one of the unique features of this moisture meter is it has a backlit screen. And this screen goes from green to yellow to red. So a green screen will mean that your wood is completely usable. So the first thing we want to do is to test this walnut. And this walnut is a letter A. And as you can see, I already have the letter A selected. So let's place this moisture meter into the wood and see what it reads. And instead of having to know what the percentage of moisture is on this wood, I can simply look at the screen, and since it's green, this wood is ready to go. Now to show you some of the outcomes you could get with this moisture meter, I've turned some of the lights off in my shop. And if I place my 2 fingers on the top of this moisture meter, you can see it going from green to yellow to red. So instead of having to memorize the percentages that you should be at for a certain type of wood, this thing will automatically tell you as long as you have it calibrated up front. And the calibration really couldn't be easier using the index that's in the user manual that's provided with this tool. So next time you need some lumber, either at a big box store or a sawmill, take this dummy-proof tool with you and you'll be sure to get a usable piece of wood that you can start working on as soon as you get back to your workshop. Also, I've got an extra one of these. So if you leave the word mustache in the comments below, I'll put your name in a drawing so I can send this tool out to you. Why mustache? I think you know why. Well, that's 3 items down and only 2 left to go. Now let's move on to our next tool. So this next tool may look like something you already have in your shop. In fact, I have something that almost looks exactly the same. However, this new tool has got a bunch of tricks up its sleeve. Let's go take a look at it. Now this next tool is made by PowerTech. Now I have a few tools that I've purchased from PowerTech over the years and I've never been disappointed in the quality. This new tool is called the PowerTech Enhanced 5-in-1 Measuring Gauge. Let's unbox this and see what it can do. So this is an old router bit gauge and saw gauge that I've had for years and I absolutely love this thing. And this PowerTech gauge looks very similar. However, there's a lot of hidden functionality in this gauge that we need to take a look at. So let's get started. So since this is a 5-in-1 tool, we need to take a look at all 5 functionalities of this tool. Let's get started with the first one, which seems to be the most obvious, and that's a router bit gauge. So one of the nice things that I really like about this router bit gauge is it does have a very wide footprint. This allows you to easily adjust your router bit up to the desired height. But if we take a look at the PowerTech 5-in-1 tool, you can see that its base is even wider than my original router bit gauge. So this makes it extremely easy to straddle that bit and get to your desired height. The second function of this tool is you can use it for a depth gauge. By simply loosening the knob, you can lower the tool and figure out what depth any piece of material is. But wait, there's more! By simply flipping the tool around, you then can get a height gauge. Let's go check out that half lap and see if it's exactly half the width. So here I'm using the depth gauge of this tool to figure out how deep that half lap is. And if I flip the tool over, I now can use the height gauge and see that this is a perfect half lap. But wait, there's more! There's actually drill bit gauges on the very top of this tool. Let me show you what that is. So this is one functionality that I don't particularly have a use for, but maybe you do. There's angles at the very top so you can figure out the angle of your drill bit. So if I put it in the 98 degree, it's not a fit. But if I put it in the 118 degree, it's a perfect fit. The last function of this tool may come in real handy when you're sharpening your tools, and that's an angle gauge for your chisels. So if we look at the side of this tool, you can see there's a 60 degree, a 40 degree, a 30 degree, and a 25 degree. These little notches allow you to stick your chisel into them and figure out what angle you're at. If we look really closely at the angle finders for the chisels as well as the drill bits, you can see that there's a little hole there. This makes sure that you don't dull your chisel or your drill bit when you're placing it into that angle finder. Now I will have to say that since my chisels are a little bit thin, these angle finders don't work particularly well. However, if you do have some fatter chisels, these things will work great. Fat like you, eh? Oh geez. So if you like gadgets like me, this may be the perfect tool for you. Just to recap, this has got a drill point gauge, a depth gauge, a router bit gauge, a height gauge, and a chisel angle gauge. And it's very reasonably priced at $25. So now that we've looked at 4 items, let's move on to our last item. So our last item today is something that's a perfect complement to something that I just purchased from Harbor Freight. You look like you shop at Harbor Freight. Can't tell if that's a compliment or what. Anyway, so recently at Harbor Freight, I purchased a T-bevel. Now this is one of the first T-bevels that I've ever had. So I'm really excited to show you this next tool. Let's go take a look at it. So this next tool is perfect. Perfect for when you have an angle on a workpiece or a project and you're not quite sure what the degree measurement is. This will allow you to easily transfer that measurement over to the miter saw and make the perfect cut. So this next tool is a miter saw protractor, and it's made by SawSet. Let's take a closer look at this tool and see how we can use it to make those perfect cuts in our miter saw. So as I said before, in order to use this tool to its full capacity, you're going to need a T-bevel. Now in this example, I've got an undefined angle here that I want to go cut at the miter saw. So let's go take our T-bevel to the tool and figure out what that angle is. So this is the SawSet Pro miter saw protractor. Now what makes this tool unique is the notch that's cut out into the bottom of it. This allows you to easily slide your T-bevel into place and figure out what angle you're at. So if we take a look at this, I'm right at 40 degrees and now I can transfer that angle over to the miter saw. Now the nice thing about this protractor is that it can accommodate almost any size T-bevel. With its extensive notch that's cut out, you really can fit any T-bevel right into place and get that perfect measurement. Now before moving on to making that 40-degree cut, I did want to mention that this actually has a single mitered side as well as a double mitered side. So depending on what type of miter you're doing, this protractor can handle it. So now we'll adjust the miter to 40 degrees so that we can make the cut. Now the only thing left to do is to make the cut and see if it matches our T-bevel. And just like that, we have a perfect angle match. So not only will this protractor be useful in the shop, but it's also going to be useful for a lot of home improvement projects. A lot of times when I'm doing home improvements, I run into weird angles that I just can't figure out. Well, that's going to do us for today, folks. I really appreciate you joining me on checking out these 5 amazing tools. I know they're going to get a lot of use in my shop, and hopefully they'll get some in yours as well. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. Until next time, take care as always.